I'm not a brother. Don't brothers.
Kuna kallon News Central TV.
Top of the morning to you, Africa. We bring you warm greetings from our studios right here in Lagos, Nigeria. We hope that you've had a great week so far and your Friday is off to a good start. Welcome to Breakfast Central. My name is Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogi Ogbanwa, and thank you so much for being with us all through the week, for everyone who started the week with us. And it's finally Friday morning. We're here to bring you the latest from across the African continent this morning, and we hope that you enjoy all the stories and all the conversations that we have. But of course, we have Blessings Mosugu to share breakfast headlines with us. Good morning, Blessings.
Good morning, Osaogi. Good morning, Olive. I hope your night was restful.
Yes, it was, and we both dressed in similar colors this morning.
No, please stop famsing her.
Yes,
I don't know.
There is white and black, and then there's grey.
There's grey. How is
You
it?
are grey.
Osaogi, look, I know, I understand.
this?
I'll sign an autograph for you, but don't push it.
All right.
Well,
bad.
so much is happening, Blessings, around the continent, and I'm sure that we're going to get into breakfast headlines shortly. But I had seen an interview earlier today where Julius Malema granted Unfiltered, and he was talking about shutdown. They were basically telling them to brace up for the dark days, that their grid is going to collapse in about 2 weeks. And I was like, wow, it's raised some sort of panic. And I just remembered a certain country on the continent where the grid has collapsed for like the 99th time. And I was like, we do have some we
99 times in 8 years.
Sorry?
99 times in 8 years.
Yes.
That's insane.
So I'm hoping that we can see how the normal people react when a grid actually collapses. It is panic and chaos.
My grid collapsed because I slept without electricity.
I don't know how Nigerians have survived over time, but a lot of things that happen that have now been sadly normalized in this country doesn't happen elsewhere. It's a big deal elsewhere. And when you now hear it, that it's happening and people are panicking, you're now wondering, am I okay? Am I normal?
Well, maybe it goes to show how resilient the Nigerian spirit is. But no, we should not get comfortable with trauma. Anyway, let's bring our top stories this morning and share with you what we'll be discussing throughout the show today.
Zimbabwe begins payment of $8 billion foreign debts.
And away from Zimbabwe, we head to Tanzania, where workers have been urged to end 3-day strike action. We'll look into this shortly.
And we're also going to be talking about empowering women for a better future.
And in Nigeria here, unfortunate report has it that gunmen killed 29 in latest attack in Plateau State.
And now in sports, Morocco announced bid withdrawal in favor of Ivory Coast. That's a pretty interesting story. These and more on Breakfast Central.
Africa is rising. Again, we hear our sounds echo on the other side. Afrobeat and Afropop reinvented, hip life brought back to life, new energy infused into Kwaito and Kwela. Africa is balling. Every stroke, every shot, every race, we find our place at the top. Taking the helm of real power, new hopes for democracies. A breed of entrepreneurial tigers, audacious storytellers, and a promising generation raring to go. Truly, Africa is rising. And this is where the stories that define our continent live.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines on News Central Television with me, Blessings Musugu. Now let's start in southern Nigeria, where Anambra Police Command has released the names of 9 U.S. consulate personnel involved in Tuesday's brutal attack, which claimed 7 lives at Ogbaru area of the state. The Commissioner of Police, Echeng, listed the persons as Jeffrey Obayuwane, Sunday Prince Ubong, Ekene Mweke, Hassan Etila, Avuye Kaye Monday, Bukar A. Kabuiki, Emmanuel Lupata, Friday Morgan, and Adamu Andrew. The commissioner made the disclosure at the command's headquarters in Amaubia on Thursday. It was gathered that out of a number, 7 were killed and set ablaze in their vehicles, while 2 were kidnapped.
Team of officials from Lagos, Consulate of the United States of America, and their police escorts were ambushed on the 16th of May 2023 between 12:00 hours and 14:00 hours along Atani Osamela Road in Ogbaru local government area of Anambra State. Preliminary investigation conducted by the command following the incident revealed that 5 male officials of the United States consulates and 4 PMF personnel escort from Lagos were on a mission to assess the impacts of erosion in Ogbaru local government and were traveling in a convoy of 2 vehicles.
Now, a Sabo Yaba Chief Magistrate Court in Lagos, Nigeria on Thursday granted an application for extension of remand of Afrobeat singer Seun Kuti for additional 4 days. The Chief Magistrate, Adeola Olatubosun, extended Kuti's remand until the 22nd of May. According to him, the extension is to allow further investigation into the case. The police charged him with slapping an inspector after driving dangerously on the bridge and deliberately blocking a moving police vehicle. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari will on Thursday, May 25, confer national honors on President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima. They both will be conferred with the national honors of Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, the GCFR, and Grand Commander of the Order of Niger, the GCON. This is according to a statement shared via Twitter by Buhari's Special Assistant on Digital and New Media, Tolu Ogunlesi. According to Ogunlesi, on the same day, there will be an official handover of transition documents to the incoming administration. With just 2 days to go before Gambian mayoral and regional elections, Gambian soldiers are going around pulling down the campaign posters of opposition politician Taliba Ahmed Bensouda. Bensouda is running for re-election in Kanifing, which is the biggest municipality in the Gambia. Many observers say Bensouda is likely to be the main challenger in the 2026 presidential election. The army's actions have caused outrage among Gambians who have condemned its behavior. Still in the west of the continent, as violence, population displacements, and climate shocks continue to worsen food insecurity and malnutrition in Mali, the United Nations World Food Programme, the WFP, says it requires urgent funding to upgrade emergency food and nutritional assistance to 3.8 million women, men, and children in conflict-affected regions in central, northern, and southeastern Mali. This response will target hard-to-reach areas like Maneka, where the number of people forced to flee their homes continues to rise. The combination of insecurity, climate shocks, and high food prices continue to drive acute hunger and malnutrition in Mali. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has gone to court to stop his predecessor from prosecuting him privately. The country's former president, Jacob Zuma, is accusing Ramaphosa of being an accessory to a crime. He wants Ramaphosa to appear in a criminal court. However, Ramaphosa has attacked the basis of Zuma's prosecution, saying it is a political ploy. The High Court in Johannesburg heard arguments of both Ramaphosa and Zuma and other interested parties over 2 days. And that's all we have for you on the news at this hour. Let's bring back Olive and Osaogie for the rest of Breakfast Central.
Thank you very much, Blessings. And I saw the first story that you shared where there's a press conference. The police is briefing the public on the attack on U.S. consulate members in Amobia in Anambra State. And then, I'm seeing that story and I'm really like, oh, how nice. Because 29 people were killed in Plateau State.
Yeah.
There's no press conference. There's nobody, speaking with the public. There's nobody addressing Nigerians on how they will fish out the perpetrators. 85 people were killed in I think it was in southern Kaduna on Plateau State also.
Jos,
I think we spoke about 38 yesterday or the day before. Also in Plateau State. The numbers have been staggering in Plateau State and the whole of, the Middle Belt region in southern Kaduna in the last couple of weeks. There's no press conference for those ones. I said it yesterday, the Nigerian government really works with shame. If you shame them enough, they will come out and at least put out a face that makes it seem like they're doing something. But because of, there's nobody shaming them for what's going on in Plateau State or in any other place, those lives don't matter enough for us to get a press conference and promises that they will fish out the perpetrators. And it's not like at this point Nigerians really even believe that perpetrators will be fished out. But at least respect the lives of those ones who have been lost also. The lives in Anambra, the U.S. consulate work staff do not matter more than the ones in Plateau State.
I mean, it's really quite sad that it looks as though, as opposed to being the priority in the country, the citizens are the last things on the minds of the government. And like Osage said, they only work with shame. I mean, just yesterday on Report Desk Africa, we're talking about the fact that a single individual, this is not to endorse what he did, but a single individual assaulted a policeman and immediately there was swift action. And then people were asking, so over the years, all the people that have been brutally killed, brutalized and manhandled by these security forces, what has been done? No actions have been taken. The security men still continue to wear their uniforms. And then it brings the question, why is it that it looks as though the citizens do not matter at all to the government at large? And it's just really sad.
Again, we always ask, what is the value of the Nigerian life? Our thoughts and our prayers are with the families who have lost loved ones in these attacks in Jos, in different parts of the country, as well as in Anambra State. And we hope that the police will fasten their seatbelts, they would, or rather take off their seatbelts and get to work and find out who are behind these attacks and not let these lives go in vain. Thank you so much, Blessings. We'll see you again at 8 a.m.
Definitely, thank you.
All right, let's go through the papers with you this morning and share what the big stories are saying on the front page. And we'll start off in the southern part of the continent and then go round to the other parts of the continent. We begin in South Africa, looking at the Sowetan on the front page of the Sowetan this morning. The big story says, "You damaged our family." And we're wondering who said this. It says it's from the witness box. Zandile Kumalu confronts men on trial for killing Senzo Meiwa, points out two of them as the assailants who entered her home. Accused giggle and shake their heads as she details how she heard 3 gunshots that night. There are more details on that story on page 2. We also have here on the front page why Lekwa Mayor was targeted on page 3. It was a failed hit. Freddie Gwala, real Pansula for life on page 12. 3-way tug for player of the year. Saleng up against Downs Mokwena and Williams on page 31. And we have here, be the change you want to see. We can see flare-off residents in Rutherford on the West Rand took to the main reef road yesterday to protest against lack of service delivery and illegal mining in the area. And the last story on the front page of the Sowetan, which is something we had alluded to earlier on in the show. Prepare for the worst, ESCOM says. Julius Malema had, of course, shared intel that they are to be preparing for something that is like a total grid shutdown in an interview he granted recently. And he's asked the people of South Africa to brace up. He's also asked that they go to old or the former ESCOM leaders and see who can help them get out of the situation. But that's what we can take. Let's still stay within the southern African part of the continent and see what the Namibian is saying.
All right, and in the Namibian this morning, sad story there, saying we received back a skeleton without flesh, and that is from, of course, the investigation of into the death of Wassafall, a lady who was killed in 2020. I'm just reading more on that story now. I think it was 2 days ago that the verdict was given, not guilty. It says that the accused, Azan Madisi, and her brother, Stephen Mulundu, were found not guilty of murdering the 21-year-old Shannon Wassafall at Walvis Bay in April 2020. They were, of course, acquitted in the Windhoek High Court 2 days ago. Really interesting, details on that story. But of course, still on the Namibian newspapers this morning, says, crocodile victim who lost leg says he would rather be dead.
It must be tough.
Yeah,
I hope he's able to get beyond the therapy, really, to be able to get through this.
I don't know what leg exactly he looks like his right leg, because men would always argue, if they lose their other leg, that they would rather die.
Wow.
The other leg. All right, still on the Namibian this morning. 6 shortlisted for GIPF chief executive job. 12-month extension suggested for Nuyoma. And finally, this morning, congratulations to all our graduates, and that is from the IUM. I think those are the stories that we can share on the Namibian this morning. Let's move now to Nigeria.
All right, here in the West, we see the big story on the Nigerian Tribune says, EFCC boss, Zamfara governor exchanged words over alleged 70 billion naira fraud. Expose me if you have any proof of fraud, Bawa says. Bawa must quit now. Face pro panel over 150 CSOs tell federal government. El Rufai revokes CFO of Markafi's company's landed properties on page 2. Court remands Sheon Kuti for additional 4 days. Did you see the update in the story? How the lawyers have said that they allegedly, took him to a magistrate court without informing his lawyers and got an extension to basically try an extension of his detention period in prison. And what that says, what they have inferred is that this is again another proof that this is targeted, this is deliberate, and an attempt to frustrate his tour plans. I hear he's meant to go on tour.
On tour on the 20th.
Yeah, so this is basically meant to frustrate his tour plans. Still on the front page, on page 6, NNPC clears 3.8 billion naira joint venture. I beg your pardon. NNPC clears $3.8 billion joint venture cash call indebtedness to grow crude oil productions to 1.8 MPSPD in July. And we have here attack on US officials in Anambra, 7 confirmed killed, 2 missing as police begin search on page 25. 2 suspects have been arrested. Yet again, just like Osage says, how many people have been arrested in the other killings? Now, these are very important. This is not to in any way downplay the tragedy that has occurred in Anambra State, but also not to downplay the tragedy that has occurred in Jos as well. Each one deserves as much attention, Speakership race, G7 aspirants vow to fight on. One person can't run Nigeria. Choose leadership for members-elect, says Wase on page 2. 200 billion naira already spent on preparations for 2023 census, says the NPC. They already spent 200 billion naira for census in Saudi.
That's pretty interesting.
I thought Nigerians had said we don't want to be counted. They should. I mean, that's not to say that we don't see the importance of the census, because this just again reveals that there's a breach of trust between the presidency and the governed. Osun Labour Movement kicks against proposed staff audits. Direct entry UTME candidates now to write same exams. JAMB remits 2 billion naira into federal government accounts. See what we're talking about the other day. They've remitted 2 billion naira into federal government accounts. And I remember when we had this conversation, your response was, is their job function to be remitting money to this federal government account or to... It
shouldn't make the news. I mean, it's because that's not your function, so we shouldn't be hearing that you've remitted money. You should remit money.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be part of the news.
So
Nobody should applaud you.
Maybe they're cutting out leakage, in different parts of the JAMB, UTME, or the JAMB purse. But the thing is, are you doing what you're supposed to do? Instead of students sleeping outside to make applications. Anyway, Buhari to confer GCFR, GCON titles on Tinubu and Shetima on the 25th of May. Federal government rolls out inauguration program. And finally, the final part, or maybe not, of the Buhari presidency, a review part 3. Yesterday was part 2 on the papers. On page 13. You know why I'm laughing, because of what she said.
Yeah,
pages 13 to 19, and that's all that we can take this morning on the Nigerian Tribune.
All right, and I think the NPC story is just once again clear evidence of how we do not punish bad behavior, and there's no actual auditing of funds. Nigeria has a spending problem, not a revenue problem, and corruption of course still runs wild in the country, because for you to be bold enough to come and tell Nigerians that you spent 200 billion naira on a census that the government had not given you a go-ahead to conduct. All right. On the Daily Trust this morning, ahead of inauguration, naira falls to 760 naira to the dollar. National Assembly leadership contenders woo lawmakers with foreign currency. Okay. Demand went up this week, BDC operators say. I want to read that again, so we're clear exactly what we are saying here. That National Assembly leadership contenders woo lawmakers, their fellow lawmakers, with foreign currency.
Yeah.
One more time. That the people who are vying for the president and deputy president of National Assembly in both Senate and House of Reps are wooing their fellow National Assembly members with foreign currency.
Let's call it what it is. They are bribing.
But it is how we can boldly put this on the newspaper. I mean, how it is common knowledge, so it can make the front page of the news. Right? I mean, according to the Daily Trust, it is common knowledge that there will be bribery. Because when you say woo, it makes it sound a little less than what it is.
Yeah, it is bribery. Maybe I want to believe that this is maybe some investigation of some sort that is being brought to light. Not like people who don't know that things like this occur.
So on Daily Trust, Port Harcourt refinery ready before year end. Warri Kaduna 2024 says Kyari.
Amen.
Direct entry candidates now to write UTME says JAMB. And also this morning on Daily Trust, we don't know Chibok girls' whereabouts, says the military. Buhari to confer GCFR, GCON on Tinubu Shatima on Thursday. And also EFCC probes Zamfara governor over 70 billion naira fraud.
Have you taken the story on the top right? The APC one?
APC NWC sets aside Goje's expulsion, says ex-governor remains bona fide member.
Okay.
And also final question. Security agents dodging bandits, mocking victims, says Sultan. Good morning, Nigeria. These are the stories that we can share on the Daily Trust this morning. We, of course, I hope you enjoyed these stories, but remember that you could always tweet at us and share your views with us on any of these stories that we shared with you. If you have comments, tweet at News Central TV and let us know your thoughts. We'll be eager to share them on television. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we're moving into our top stories this morning on Breakfast Central.
Africa is rising. Again, we hear our sounds echo on the other side. Afrobeat and Afropop reinvented, hip life brought back to life, new energy infused into Kwaito and Kwela. Africa is balling. Every stroke, every shot, every raise, we find our place at the top. Taking the helm of real power, new hopes for democracies. A breed of entrepreneurial tigers, audacious storytellers, and a promising generation raring to go. Truly, Africa is rising. And this is where the stories that define our continent live.
Our top story begins with a look at some of the happenings in the southern part of the continent, and we have journalist Tebogo Mokoto, who joins us now from Gaborone in Botswana. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Ozaki. Good morning, Olive. It's a pleasure to join you guys this morning.
It's good to have you this morning. All right, now let's get into it. There are reports that South Africa's potential loss of privileged access to the U.S. market under the African Growth and Opportunity Act due to its ties with Russia could result in annual exports worth 60 billion rand being jeopardized. I want to know what are your thoughts about this as well?
Well, Olive, I mean, it's we need to look at it from different. It's a multifaceted problem. This one that we're seeing here, because now, as much as the United States has come into the mix, they've appreciated that Ukraine is fighting for their sovereignty. Yet, when you look at it, the sovereignty is not only compromised by actual open war. Now, when you look at what's happening now in terms of what the U.S. has done with South Africa, that also on its own undermines and compromises the South African nation's sovereignty in terms of its ability to take autonomous decisions. Now, the threat on its own in terms of really losing this trade deal, it might not be as much of a threat as it seems, if you look at it from the perspective that there's of course a lot happening on the ground. Now, what we've seen with COVID-19 is that it created a situation where a lot of us felt threatened, but there was a lot of opportunity in that as well. South Africa is part of BRICS. That's a trade coalition. South Africa is also, Africa as a whole is looking at the AfCFTA. That's also another trading avenue. So in South Africa losing that amount of money, it gives South Africa an opportunity to move away from a control structure, because what's now happening is that what's supposed to be for growth and opportunity is now being dangled in a way that's saying, okay, if you are not with me, then you are against me, and if you are against me, then you stand to lose this much. So, that on its own now holds leverage over an entire nation that should be free to choose its allegiances in terms of whether it stands with Russia. And we know that South Africa has very close ties with Russia. We've seen it in the past. They've done military training exercises together. The BRICS as well is a summit that they're going to be holding jointly come August. And we do know that there's a standing order from the ICC for President Putin to be arrested. I think that's just going to also pour, if I may say, fuel, or rather bring more of this bilateral relations and allegiances between these three countries into light, to really see which allegiance is stronger and which one makes sense for South Africa. I'll speak for South Africa because we are in Africa. I think Africa needs to move towards weaning itself of dependence on the West, especially when now this dependence compromises our ability to take decisions independently.
Right.
If we are looking, if say for South Africa sees opportunity in its allegiance with Russia, why are we not able to say, okay, as a power, as an economy, you do have the right to choose to follow that path, looking at your objectives, your interests. Who's to say South Africa's interests are not a priority as compared to the interests of the United States in terms of geopolitics?
All right. And, some people would argue that, it's even a good thing, that a lot of countries across the world are starting to realize how much of a trap they, get into when they have this over-reliance on a relationship with the U.S. or relationship with the trading with the U.S. dollar and some of all of that, because it puts you in a cage where you always have to play by the rules of the United States, even when you don't want to, and so there's more and more countries breaking out of that. And I think it's a good thing. The conversation on Russia and South Africa and Ukraine, it would take too much time. But let's get into something else. Tebogo, I think everybody already knows my views on that. Let's go to Lesotho, where a curfew has been implemented, which is aimed at controlling gun violence. This, of course, follows the gunning down of a radio presenter in the small southern kingdom nation of Lesotho. Tebogo, are guns really so prolific in Lesotho? And is the curfew not maybe drastic in this case? Is there some other way that this could maybe handled?
Yeah, well, it's what we found out, because I've been communicating with our fellow journalists in Lesotho as well. A lot of people on the ground feel that curfew is drastic. And I posed a question to say, okay, in terms of gun violence, what statistics or what scientific research points to it happening between 10 and 4 a.m.? What logic went into that? Is there research to say most cases or most gun related violence took place within those time frames? And there's no scientific research or statistics or cases from the police that point to that being the case. Now, everybody on the ground feels like a curfew obviously is going to pinch on the economy. So it's been viewed as very drastic for the fact that it's not based on anything that can be scientifically or statistically proven. Now, in terms of guns being prolific in Lesotho, what we're getting is that guns are moving from unlicensed guns are moving from officials or security officials to civilians. So now what's happening in Lesotho is that you find that gender-based violence now involves guns more than ever. Thieves or criminals now have access to guns more than ever. We've seen the same thing take effect in Botswana, where most of our crimes involve guns, unlike before, where it used to be a knife, where it used to be something less, a little less more harmful or threatening than a gun. Now we have guns in society. And now when it comes to the shooting of the journalist as well, I've been informed that the problem now in Lesotho is that they don't have a media policy. So with this particular journalist, he had aligned himself politically to a certain party, and now what he has been doing is that he's been poking at the National Security Services, poking at certain political leadership in the country. So the shooting could also be politically motivated, or as journalists in Lesotho have revealed, their findings are pointing to. So you find that it's a dicey situation where you are trying to fix a problem with a solution that doesn't fit. But the government has said the curfew will serve to give them time to think strategically on a solution, but it's quite drastic for us.
Drastic. I don't know if drastic is the right word in this case, because one might assume that might in some way, don't you think that might be downplaying the fact that a life was actually lost? And maybe, they might have some intel that we do not have. Don't you see that from that perspective?
Well, from that perspective, it also makes sense. A life has been lost. And obviously, we've seen the same thing happen in Swaziland, where you get journalists and people who drive dissent getting attacked. But at the same time, we are pointing to the fact that in the same instance, this particular journalist had been involved in cases that can be investigated independently, as opposed to taking the whole entire nation and compromising its economic standing. Lesotho is not doing so well economically. So now when you impose curfew, we've seen what curfews do during COVID-19, where businesses have actually collapsed, where society's standard of living has actually collapsed, and we're seeing high inflation right now. So when you balance it against the economics of it and balancing it off against a case that can be investigated independently to actually get to the core of what's going on, it sort of looks slightly drastic.
All right. Okay, let's take the conversation away to Botswana, where they're gearing up for the 2024 election year. And as can be imagined, there's certain movement from both, the ruling party and the opposition parties as well. Now, there's been a big move this week. That was that of a former High Court judge and former Minister of Foreign Affairs, human rights activist and lawyer, who held a press conference announcing her resignation from the BDP Tebogo, could you speak to the instability maybe or lack of it in the ruling party? What currently is your analysis of what's going on?
Yeah, Olive, this press conference, really took the country by storm. I think a lot of Botswana were looking at it to say, wow, we're profusely shocked. Because we've noted, or like it stands right now, Dr. Unity Dow is somebody of very high regard. She stands for women's rights. She's a former high court judge. She's held different portfolios that really give her that weight and that credibility. So now she has resigned, pointing to intimidation within the ruling party. She's pointed to stifling of dissent. She said within the structures of the ruling party, she's unable to speak on issues without bias. She's unable to address issues and fix things without them becoming too political. So I think she's reached a boiling point where she felt that she cannot go on anymore. And speaking to intimidation, women representation in politics has also been one thing in Africa that has been an issue. And more often than not, you'd find women who are in political spheres within African parties, the ruling BDP as well, pointing to that kind of intimidation where, okay, you are a woman, keep quiet here, don't, so it's those aspects of her resignation that has actually left everybody thinking, yeah, we might have a serious problem in terms of equality here. Now, in terms of also the 2024 election, for a ruling party to lose such a high-profile figure, it also really just doesn't sit well, because we have to ask ourselves now, if somebody of that high regard loses confidence in the governance of a standing administration, what does that say about the party, and what does that say about us voting in 2024? So that's things as they stand now, and we're looking at how it goes down, because apparently she's been called for a hearing on the 24th of May. So we're looking to see how it's all going to play out and how it's going to eventually impact the 2024 elections.
Well, there's so much going on, with regards to elections in 2024. And many African countries are, of course, running elections. But I think, all of this, is still part of the fine-tuning of the electoral process and the leadership recruitment process in different parts of the continent. So we'll see how it turns out. But let's go to Zimbabwe now. It's not, any news that its economy has been in turmoil for decades. We've seen the impacts of this instability impact the rest of Southern Africa in various ways. Faced with of course, staggering debt, an estimated $8 billion and a collapsed economy. Now, tell us what exactly is happening here, especially Zimbabwe used to be one of Southern Africa's most powerful economies. Is this just the effect of sanctions, or has there also been, mismanagement, of the economy over decades?
I think Osagi, to put it mildly, it's mismanagement. But mostly, you'd understand that we have a serious problem when it comes to corruption in Africa, and it's at the core of everything we touch, where we lose billions of currency into thin air or into individuals' pockets. So I think this has played into what we've seen evolve in Zimbabwe. The sanctions, I was talking to the European Union ambassador recently to really ask her, because our foreign minister had called the European Union out to say, lift sanctions, because these sanctions are vicariously affecting the rest of us. They're affecting Botswana, they're affecting South Africa. Lift the sanctions on Zimbabwe so that the Southern African region can see better economic results. But she has said we don't, as the EU, we have not imposed sanctions that are so crippling. The sanctions that we have, if you may call them sanctions, are targeted at individuals that have worked to actually drive maladministration, like you're saying, and mismanagement within that particular nation. So I think it's both. You have both playing into it. the mismanagement of funds by African leaders in general, and then also the sanctions by Western powers to try and mitigate the situation, but not realizing that it's also contributed to crippling that particular economy. Now, there's a bit of hope in us talking about this. We do know, of course, that the economy has been down for years, but there's a bit of hope in that the African Development Bank, Akinwumi Adesina, is actually championing to get Zimbabwe out of the mess that it's in right now by maybe trying to compensate farmers that Robert Mugabe ousted in the early 2000s, as I'm sure you are aware. So they're trying to really free up funds to help Zimbabwe establish points in the economy where it can actually start to claw its way back to some sort of normalcy when it comes to that economy.
Right.
So we've seen President Emmerson Mnangagwa also commit to that. So there's hope. There's hope there, and as the Southern African region, we're actually looking at it to see how it goes and whether it should be implemented correctly.
Tebogo, thank you so much for a wonderful analysis of some of the biggest stories in Southern Africa. And I'd love for us to speak about Julius Malema and the current drama going on, but that's a conversation for another day. We hope that when we have you next week, we might be able to touch on that as well. Thank you very much and have a wonderful weekend.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Cheers to Osagi. Cheers to you all. Enjoy yourselves.
Thank you. And now let's bring the conversation back to Nigeria, where for decades there has been repeated mass and isolated attacks by armed men on farming communities in the Plateau state, north-central Nigeria. Shortly after the just concluded elections, Mangu, Riom, Barkin-Ladi, Jos South and Bokos local government areas have been subjected to incessant attacks by Fulani militias in their hundreds, aiming at dislocating the socioeconomic life of the state.
Now, the weight of attacks have resulted in increased loss of lives, destruction of property worth millions of naira, alarming displacements with little or no action from the authorities concerned. Now, just on Tuesday, we got reports that many people were killed and houses burnt in two communities in Kubwa and Fungzai in the Kombun district of Mangu local government area of Plateau State. Now, this morning, we have Barrister Daliop Solomon Mwantiri, the National President, Berom Youth Motor Association, joining us to speak on these very, very ugly incidents. Good morning and thanks for joining us. We'd like if you can unmute your device. It seems to be muted still, so we can get the conversation going. All right, if you can hear us, let's get on with it. I want to know, earlier with today we spoke about how these killings and these attacks seem to be underreported. It doesn't seem like a lot of people show any concern as to what's going on in the Middle Belt region of Nigeria. So can you tell us what the situation is like in those communities? And once again, please help unmute your device. I think your device is muted. We can't hear you yet. Can you hear us clearly? Or if you can hear us, your device is muted. There's a place where you need to turn on the sound on the left side of your screen of your device. There should be a...
All right, whilst we're trying to sort this out, we hope that you can check the bottom left corner of your screen where you see a microphone icon and tap that to unmute the device, because we are not able to hear you. But Osage, it's important that we have a conversation about what's happening in Jos. I was able to watch an interview that happened in Jos, and I saw the women of the community who had come out to protest and talked about the fact that they felt like not enough was being done. Okay, since we have our guest joining us, thank you very much for joining us. First of all, our thoughts and our prayers are with the people of Plateau State. I want you to please give us a picture of what exactly it is like in these affected communities.
All right, the situation in Jos, Plateau State, particularly Mangu, Bokos, Barkin-Ladi, Riom, and part of Jos South, is very, very appalling, because the people woke up to carry out their lawful businesses, and lo and behold, Fulani militias came in their hundreds and invaded communities and villages, especially the alarming killings and displacement in Mangu local government. Calls for state action. Of course, ever since shortly after the just concluded general elections, Plateau State have been subjected to resurgence of attacks and isolated killings by Fulani militias that, based on intelligence available, that these are terrorist elements that have been mobilized within the state and also from neighboring states who have come and infiltrated villages and communities, valleys, nooks and crannies of the hinterland. And then, of course, since last month, just a month ago, we've lost not less than 130 people, because as from Monday to date, we've lost almost 100 people in the wake of this insurgency. And then, of course, the situation here, there is humanitarian crisis here because there are alarming displacement. As we know, because as an eyewitness and also a frontline advocate that had visited some of the scenes, the situation is very, very pathetic and pitiable because the people are helpless. Even though, of course, we cannot overrule the fact that there is a presence of security personnel in some, not all, in some of the affected areas. But from our observation, it is obviously clear that the security appears to have been overwhelmed because they cannot be everywhere. They are not spirits. They are human beings like us. We appreciate that fact. But of course, more needs to be done. Otherwise, Plateau State and the hinterland, the villages and communities in those affected communities are facing a threat of extinction. Because like what happened on Monday night, in the midnight of Monday, when people were having their rest, and Fulani militias went and invaded Kubat's village of Mangu, and also Fugzai, where we had a loss of not less than 40 to 50 people. As if that wasn't enough. You know, while the people, the mourners, were making efforts towards gathering the corpses for mass burial, the Fulani militias came in their hundreds and attacked the mourners, where they have to abandon the burial process and then, of course, run for their lives. It is as a result of that subsequent invasion that about 6 villages were overrun. And some of us that went to the scene to witness the mass burial, we were entrapped alongside some of the security personnel that were mobilized, to go, that were deployed, to contain the situation. And of course, from the video that is being displayed, I was right there among the people that we ambushed. And of course, we appreciate the effort of the security personnel, because I can talk authoritatively that the Deputy Commissioner of Police of Plateau State, Mr. Ima Ado, was right there with the commander of the, I want to believe it is the FOB commander of the Mangu, that is of the Operation Safe Haven. He was also there with other sister agencies. But of course, the number of the headers that invaded that particular general area was very alarming, because what my eyes could see, there were more than 500. And then, of course, we met them, setting homes ablaze. And surprisingly, women and children of the Fulani militias were looting right before us. And I can tell vividly that I drew the attention of the security personnel. That could you see what was happening there? Because we were surprised that, the whole place was on flame. And we were thinking that it is the locals or the natives who have returned and are trying to gather 1 or 2 items that were not set ablaze. Lo and behold, it dawned on us that they were the Fulani, little children, women, and the men.
Let's understand better what might be going on here, because A lot of times in the news, you might hear these things reported as clashes between farmers and herders or community clashes. That's the way it's reported. So can you be clear exactly with us, on what exactly is going on here? And when these places are attacked and you hear that dozens have been killed, these attackers, do they take over those areas? Do they live there, or they attack and then go away and then come back again later? Help us understand exactly how this plays out.
Sorry, I'm not getting you. I didn't get you, Claire. Maybe I could hear from my sister, because I think it appears I do get a little bit clear.
Okay, so what we're trying to say, I think in essence, as quickly as possible, is that he's asking you to give us a clear picture of what's going on in terms of these people who are the attackers. Do they then try to overtake the lands, that they have attacked, and what really is the picture in that sense? I believe that's what...
Do they take over the places that they've attacked, or do they just kill people and leave? Is this a land grabbing thing?
Could we say it again? The wave of the network is quite poor. I'm not getting what you say.
Okay, it seems I'm just going to try one more time. He's trying to find out if this is some situation of a land grabbing matter. Is it a situation of them trying to take over this land after attacking? Do they take over the land, or do they come, kill, and go? What's the picture? That's what he's asking.
Of course. One of the rationale we believe, based on our assessment, is that the militias are not just after killing. They are also aiming at, because after killing and uprooting villages and communities, they will eventually come to take occupation. Authoritatively, I want to say here on the plateau, we have lost, or the Fulanis have succeeded in uprooting not less than 102 villages that are currently under their occupation. We have raised the agitation for dislodgement of those elements from those land grab, but of course, it has always fallen on deaf ears. And then, of course, from what we have seen, now uprooting not less than 10 villages in 2 nights of invasions. It is, a mission toward fulfilling additional land grab on the plateau, because Plateau State is one of the states that have suffered the incident of land grab. And then the people, the attackers have come with sophisticated weapons, overrunning villages and communities. And the villagers are left with an option of only, using them guns by community and local security outfits for the exercise of self-defense, which going by our law and also the judicial authorities.
All right, we unfortunately have run out of time with this conversation, but we thank you for joining us. We extend our thoughts, our condolences for the lives that have been lost, and we hope that the government is listening and doing the needful in terms of showing up for the people of Plateau State. Thank you so much for your time this morning. All right, let's share with you. I mean, that's a very hard conversation to have, but we will keep talking about it on Breakfast Central, because we do need to draw the attention of the government to what's happening in Plateau State and to see a speedy reaction and, maybe a bit of a preventive measure to ensure that we don't have these sort of crises on our hands. Let's share with you what's happening in the world of sports as we have Samson on standby.
In sports, African representatives at the ITTF World Table Tennis Championship in Durban, South Africa have been handed tricky opponents for the round of 32. Africa's top-ranked men's singles player Aruna Quadri of Nigeria has been drawn against Romania's Ovidiu Lunescu, while Egypt's Omar Assa got a relatively easy draw as well. In the women's category, Egyptian duo of Dina Meshrev and Anna Goda got relatively easy draws, while former African champion Olufunke Oshonaike clashes with Charlotte Luz of the United States. It's been 84 years since the World Championships finals were held in Africa, making this event a historic milestone for the sport. The 2023 World Championships finals holds from May 20th to 28th. Away from that to football matters, Morocco has officially withdrawn its bid to host the 2023 edition of the CAF Women's Champions League in favor of Ivory Coast. The president of Morocco's Football Federation, Fawzi Lekia, disclosed the decision on the sidelines of the CAF Executive Committee meeting in Algiers, Algeria. Lekia highlighted the deep, long-standing ties binding Morocco and Ivory Coast as the reason for the withdrawal, stressing that this decision symbolizes the strong relationship and brotherhood between the two countries. Morocco's decision marks a significant development in the process of determining the host country for the CAF Women's Champions League 2023 edition, with Morocco's backing making Ivory Coast a frontrunner in the race to secure the hosting rights of the continental tournament. Still talking football matters, Burkina Faso ended their Under-17 African Cup of Nations with a place on the podium after edging out Mali by 2-1 in the third-place playoff in Annaba. The Burkinabe enjoyed sweet revenge against Malians, having lost by a solitary goal when both met in the group stages. Osman Kamara's first-half penalty and Apollinaire Bogma's strike after the break ensured Burkina Faso returned home with a medal on their necks. Mamadou Doumbia scored Mali's consolation in the second half, which was his fourth of the tournament, but it did little to spur a possible comeback. Away from there now, you have the third place result there, Burkina Faso defeating Mali by 2-1, while the final will be today, and it's going to be between the Teranga Cubs of Senegal against Morocco in what promises to be an exciting final. Still talking football on the continent, the Confederation of African Football has announced a major change in the qualifying format for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The new system would see the formation of 9 groups, with each group consisting of 6 teams. Under the revised format, the team finishing at the top of each group would secure direct qualification for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, while the 4 best second-place teams across the groups would have the opportunity to vie for a coveted playoff spot. This playoff would determine the representative from Africa, who would then face off against the team from the CONCACAF region. Away from that to European football matters, the Premier League unveiled on Thursday the 7 nominees for its Player of the Season award, with Liverpool forward Mohamed Salah's name conspicuously missing. The Manchester City duo of Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland, Arsenal duo of Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard, Tottenham Hotspur's Harry Kane and Manchester United's Marcus Rashford, alongside Newcastle United's Kieran Trippier, are the 7 nominees for the Premier League Player of the Season award. Salah's omission comes as a shock to so many, considering his 29-goal contribution consisting of 19 goals and 10 assists in the league this season. The Egyptian superstar won the coveted award in 2018 and 2022. To European Football League, talking about the Europa League semi-final clash, you had Bayer Leverkusen taking on Roma at home. That ended goalless, and it was the Italian side Roma edging that one on aggregate by a lone goal to progress to the final, while you had Sevilla defeating Juventus by 2-1 to progress into the finals of the Europa League as well. And that's a wrap in sports. It's back to you, Oli.
Thank you very much, Samson, for the update in the world of sports. There's so much to talk about, but unfortunately we've run out of time. We'll see you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. 1 hour of pure conversations around the continent. Let's share with you some of the stories that we've discussed this morning. We headed to Zimbabwe, where we talked about Zimbabwe beginning the payment of $8 billion foreign debt. This was, of course, as we did our Southern Africa cover.
And, of course, Tanzanian workers to end a 3-day strike. We're going to be talking about that in the next hour.
And in the world of sports, Ngannou response to Fury demands offer be made official.
Good luck to him. But that's not all this morning. We have more conversations coming your way in the second half of Breakfast Central.
Empowering women for a better future. Will be joined by a representative of her economy to talk about what they're doing in that regard.
And May 29th inauguration, Nigeria Police emphasized readiness.
And we'll be, of course, bringing you the newspaper front pages to share with you what the papers are saying. Stay with us.
Africa needs its own storytellers, people who understand the continent because they're from it. People who know that news is more than just a conversation starter, it's our stories. Because these stories run deeper than headlines and segments. It's about digging deeper to get the facts and telling the human side of every single story, not just the echoes from foreign headlines and perspectives. It's time to take back our narratives and share them in our voices. The birth of Africa's New Age reporting And this is where it begins, right here at News Central TV, with stories that put Africa first. Africa needs its own storytellers, people who understand the continent because they're from it. People who know that news is more than just a conversation starter, it's our stories. Because these stories run deeper than headlines and segments. It's about digging deeper to get the facts and telling the human side of every single story, not just the echoes from foreign headlines and perspectives. It's time to take back our narratives and share them in our voices. The birth of Africa's New Age reporting, and this is where it begins, right here at News Central TV, with stories that put Africa first.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines on News Central Television with me, Blessings Musugu. Let's start in Central Africa, where at least 4 persons have been killed in a raid by suspected militiamen from the famed Virunga National Park in the volatile east of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. According to the Congolese Institute for Conservation of Nature, the ICCN, armed individuals believed to be Mai insurgents ambushed a convoy of development project personnel on Thursday morning in North Kivu Province's Lubero area. The institute disclosed that those killed in the attack included 1 technician and 3 park rangers, while 6 others were injured. Now, in the west of the continent, the Gambian army has apologized after some soldiers were seen removing opposition politician Mayor Taliba Ahmed Bensouda's campaign posters. The army said in a statement that it was investigating the soldiers involved, but that their acts were isolated events. The army informed the public that anyone found wanting would face proper punishment. Political tensions have been increasing in the country ahead of Saturday's mayoral and regional elections. The Soldiers Act have outraged Gambians who have denounced their behavior. In southern Nigeria now, Anambra Police Command has released the names of the 9 U.S. consulate personnel involved in Tuesday's brutal attack, which claimed 7 lives at Ogbaru area of the state. The Commissioner of Police, Echeng, listed the persons as Jeffrey Obayuwane, Sunday Prince Ubong, Ekene Nweke, Hassan Etila, Aviwe Kai Monday, Bukar A. Kabuiki, Emmanuel Lupata, Friday Morgan, and Adamu Andrew. The commissioner made the disclosure at the command's headquarters in Amobia on Thursday. It was gathered that out of the numbers, 7 were killed and set ablaze in their vehicles, while 2 were kidnapped.
A team of officials from Lagos, Consulate of the United States of America, and their police escorts were ambushed on the 16th of May 2023 between 12:00 hours and 14:00 hours along Atani Osamela Road in Ogbaro local government area of Anambra State. Preliminary investigation conducted by the command following the incident revealed that 5 male officials of the United States consulates and 4 BMF personnel escort from Lagos were on a mission to assess the impact of erosion in Ogbaro local government and were traveling in a convoy of 2 vehicles.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari will on Thursday, May 25, confer national honors on President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima. They both will be conferred with the national honors of Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, the GCFR, and Grand Commander of the Order of Niger, the GCON. This is according to a statement shared via Twitter by Buhari's Special Assistant on Digital and New Media, Tolu Ogunlesi. According to Ogunlesi, on the same day, there will be an official handover of transition documents to the incoming administration. Now, still in the west of the continent, as violence, population displacement, and climate shocks continue to worsen food insecurity and malnutrition in Mali, the United Nations World Food Programme, WFP, says it requires urgent funding to upgrade emergency food and nutritional assistance to 3.8 million women, men and children in conflict-affected regions in central, northern, and southeastern Mali. And this response will target hard-to-reach areas like Menaka, where the number of people forced to flee their homes continues to rise. The combination of insecurity, climate shocks, and high food prices continue to drive acute hunger and malnutrition in Mali. Well, that's all we have for you on the news at this hour. It's back to Olive and Osauge for the rest of Breakfast Central.
I mean, it's just really sad to see what's happening in Mali with the acute hunger, malnutrition. We do hope that Mali, not just Mali, like the other parts of the continent that are dealing with malnutrition and, you know, they get the support that they need. We are one continent after all. And like we always say on the show, we must start to look for homegrown solutions for these homegrown problems. And we hope that we can, you know, get out of this fix as quickly as possible.
Hopefully so. Very well said, Olive.
All right. Thank you very much. Blessings. See you around.
Thank you.
All right, let's share with you what the papers are saying this morning. Starting, of course, we did talk about some papers earlier, and if there are any of the stories you'd like to engage with, remember that we have our Twitter handle, New Central TV it is.
And we begin on the Punch newspapers this morning. It says that Tinubu's inauguration. Programs begin Thursday. Federal government invites over 65 world leaders. That's on page 2 of the Punch. Stay away from inauguration venue if you don't have business there, says Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Also, Buhari hands over transition documents to incoming president on Thursday. NYSC at 50. Buhari grants 65 ex-corpers automatic employment and scholarships. You can also find here Osun workers protest as Adeleke begins payroll audit. 2 held over U.S. consular officials' killings. And also Matawale diverted 70 billion naira with 100 firms, the EFCC alleges. Still on the Punch this morning. Federal allocation drops again as federal government and states share 655 billion naira. Live broadcast, threats to tribunal judges' lives, says Tinubu's lawyer. Which makes absence. I don't know. Because not like nobody knows, everybody knows who you are.
Everybody knows who is on each team. Everybody knows the lawyer on each team. So threats to whose life?
I don't know. And you know, I keep seeing this thing, and I've read this a couple of times where people are saying it feels like INEC and the APC or INEC and the federal government, you know, are taking sides, you know, and INEC is not necessarily a party to the suit in any way, and so it seems like they're taking sides with with one part of...
No,
of,
INEC
of
would automatically. I think it only makes sense that INEC would take a side with a party because INEC genuinely believes that the election that it held.
No, but you're really only there to prove to the world and prove to Nigerians that you conducted a free and fair election.
And so because they believe that they conducted a free and fair election, it would seem that, or it would then say that, it would then show why they might be taking side with any party because
okay, great.
So this is the party that we think won because we did a good job.
Fantastic. So why can't everybody see what's going on? It's a court of law. Everyone should be able to see what's going on.
A phrase, is it a phrase or a parable? I don't even know what to call it. That says, "He that is down needs fear no fall." So if
not even that.
Okay, no.
You said the wrong one.
No, that's the wrong one.
Yeah, sorry.
That one. But like he who, like, if you have nothing to hide, why are you hiding if you have nothing to hide? I just formed one now.
You just formed a new one. It really just doesn't add up, And if you're proud and you're certain that you have your strong case and you did win the election, then let everybody see. All right, NNPCL begins crude supply to Dangote refinery next week. That's the final story on the Punch this morning.
All right, let's guard you with the Guardian this morning on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Big story says Nigeria scores self 100% on failed carrier, MRO and airport concessions. Big stories on pages 4 and 5. And then we have PEPC, INEC, Tinubu, APC kick against Atiku's request for live telecast of proceedings. That's the story we just talked about. Details on page 3. PTC unveils transition activities, warns unauthorized persons to stay away from Eagle Square. Be warned on page 6. Typically, you would think that on things like this, in Sena climes, when there's an inauguration, everybody is happy. It's like, oh, welcome. Everybody should be outside Eagle Square cheering, holding placards and saying, oh, our man. I mean, just like the way, although, yes, there will be people that would dissent, just like we saw with the England, the King of England. There were people outside celebrating in the same breath. There were still protesters. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Cash crunch cuts telecom's growth as operators lose 1.02 million subscribers. So where are the subscribers going to? Are you sure these are not subscribers that have jackpot, that have left the country? Anyway, Nigeria hopeful of $32.5 billion oil projects as NNPC eyes 1.8 MBD in July on page 6. Failed Ijara Bridge. Residents blame shoddy job and lack of supervision. CSOs demand Bawa's exit over corruption allegations by Matawali. That's all we have on The Guardian.
All right, let's move away from The Guardian, Nigeria. Let's go to Liberia and see what's on the front page of the front page. It says there, no campaigning for Boakai. And also it says here, even if I steal, and that is Bongi's nickname, former Minister of State on his second visit to Bong since sanctions. I'm not sure what that is about. But also predicting Bokai's death. You can find that article top of your screen. Boosting financial inclusion and integration. That's also on the front page. Not very many stories, actually. 12-panel jury say defendants in $100 million drug bust not guilty. Justice for sale? That's the question on that story. The judge has hereby ordered the return of $200,000 seized from the defendants as they've been found not guilty of smuggling significant amount of cocaine into the country. Interesting in Liberia there. But these are the big stories we have on the front page of the front page. We have time to squeeze in some stories from Kenya. All
right, on the front page of, on the Standard, right, the front page of the Standard in Kenya, mystery of the dirty sugar. That's what the big story is saying in Kenya. And we also have judiciary boss caught up in gold scam case. Gachagua, key state jobs are for Kenya Kwanzaa loyalists. And that's all the story that we have this morning on the front page. Oh, very quickly, for the second time, government officials and officers are being sent home over the same sugar consignment that was first condemned in 2018. Two cabinet secretaries gave conflicting accounts on impurities. That is an update on the mystery of dirty sugar, and that's all that we can have this morning on the front pages of the newspapers. We'll go on the break, and when we come back, our top stories are here, and we'll be exploring them in depth. Stay with us.
Skylines a byline, you watch how we define and listen when we speak, you better listen, cause it's your turn. Now it's your turn.
Glow Data, your front row seat to the world of entertainment. Nobody does video streaming better. Dial *777# now.
News Central ní ẹ̀ ń wò.
To Breakfast Central. Now we're talking about something that really interests me, conversations about women and empowering women. Now reports have it that women are underrepresented in various sectors, such as in the workplace, in the environment, education, and in leadership positions across the continent. And it is said that this is usually due to lack of gender equality or equity and poor structures of discrimination hinged on organizational blocks. In the areas of science, technology, engineering, and math, women are lacking in support and breakthroughs. Now, in a bid to reach at least 1 million women by 2025, using avenues such as workshops, community hangouts, memberships, and celebratory events, Herconomy is a fintech brand that empowers women. Today, to speak on this product is the manager of Herconomy, Anu Oyeleye. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I think it's very important that we have conversations about empowering women. When we look at the role that women play, not just in the economy, in politics, in every area, we cannot downplay it. And it's why we to have conversations about the Sustainable Development Goals and gender equality being goal 5. But I know that Herconomy is doing a lot in terms of women empowerment. So can you please share with us some of the ways in which you have been empowering women and continue to empower women?
Okay. Again, thank you for having me. At Herconomy, what we essentially do, like you said, is we empower women. We are blessed with a community of women that actually allows us to do so much in terms of user research, market surveys, and all of that. So in doing all of that, we're able to understand what women need. Like I said, it's a community, diverse women. And then we just know that these things that they need would actually help us to develop products. So as a product manager, it's just more or less like doing all of the surveys, user research, understanding what they need, giving them products that will allow them to be more financially independent, more increase their financial capacity, right? And some of the product offerings that we have, let me start with plans, right? Plans, women like this collectiveness, right? It allows them to save together collectively towards a goal. And then another one that is Vault. Now, the Vault, like the name implies, you're able to lock money away. I mean, not away like that, but you lock money in your account, right? And you go to sleep. Now, my personal favorite, right, is the Easy Save feature under the Vault product offering, which is allowing you to automatically, or let me say, automate your savings, however which way you want. Daily, monthly, weekly, whatever amount you so please, and also set the time. You know, all of these things are things that would actually allow women to somewhat feel more, I use the word, entitled to their finances, you know, and then through the user research that we do, we use sex disaggregated data that allows us to know that women have the habit of spending before they save. It's a very, very bad habit, you know, and that's why we were able to churn out products like that to help curb or to help, you know, reduce how much spending women make, and just ultimately allow them to save more than they spend.
I think that, you know, what you have just highlighted is very important. Saving is a very important part for women, because when you talk about financial empowerment, there's so many layers to it. Not just with it helping the woman to be independent, to be able to pursue her dreams, but if you look at cases of domestic abuse, for example, a number of women who still stay there, some of the reasons they will cite would be, one, the children, two, would be money, because they're thinking, where do I start from? So it's a very important, and I would say, laudable feat that her economy has embarked on in terms of helping women to be financially independent. Now let's talk about, you've mentioned spending much more than saving as one of the challenges that women have. Let's talk about some of the other challenges you've seen over the course of your research that women experience in terms of, you know, business. What are some of the challenges women face, and how are they able to overcome these challenges?
Okay, before I answer the question properly, now let me just take us through some statistics, right? We have about 20% of African women that are, you know, they're just financially literate. That means 80% of them are financially illiterate, right? We also have like 55% of women that do not have access to financial products. And finally, we have 36% of women that it's quite interesting to note that they are financially excluded. That means globally we have women, or we have seen that women are underserved, right? Financial service providers churn out products day in, day out with data that are used for men, you know, that have gotten. But how about having all of that, or using sex disaggregated data that I mentioned earlier, to be able to know what women need, or how can we empower women more financially? How can we make women more financially independent and increase their capacity? You know, so at Her Economy, what we do is, within the community, we are able to understand that aside from just helping women save better, we also need to empower women, right? So we have what's it called now? Communities, events, physical events. We have virtual events that actually capacity building, you know, that actually allows women to come together, learn better, to make their lives a lot easier, so that at least in the long run, they are able to beat their chest and say, you know what, I think I'm better off financially than I was before.
All right, let's talk about gender equality. The green or the pink elephant in the room. And it's an important conversation to have, because when we look at, for example, Sustainable Development Goals, Goal 5 is gender equality. Sometimes some people have alluded to the fact that it might be an overflogged conversation, but you know, it's a conversation that is building momentum and gaining steam with every passing day. How important is it for organizations and businesses to promote gender equality, and how can they do that in their day-to-day running of their businesses?
To be honest, we have seen time and time again that gender equality is, in the organization, or let me say, has been badly downplayed. And honestly speaking, women need to take more roles in organizations. We need to take up more roles, and not just any kind of roles, preferably top roles. At Her Economy, now I can speak specifically for us. Our C-suite is predominantly women. I mean, from the CEO to the CFO to the COO, women. But then we try to balance it, of course. So our tech team and our graphics team, comms team are men. But the rest of the population in the organization are women. Now, in other organizations, it would be nice if they can balance things, look for a way to increase gender diversity. Women these days want to take up more roles. Women these days want to do better for themselves. Women it's just quite interesting because it's not like before. It's not status quo anymore. Women want to do better. They want to feel more in tune with their lives and their careers. So gender diversity in the organizations right now should be promoted.
I totally agree with you. You know, when we have conversations about inclusivity, whenever we talk about this, I remember going to a certain organization once, and on getting there, I saw different rooms that were named after, it's in Nigeria, and different rooms were named after different female leaders. So Queen Amina and, you know, all these other leaders and warriors. And I asked, what are these rooms for? And they said to me that these rooms are like rooms where women who are nursing their children can bring their children to work. And we know that, you know, so just basically being able to have your children there, someone is catering to your children. If you need to breastfeed, you can come breastfeed and go back to work. And we know that to be, you know, when you look at the skill, or you look at when we talk about gender equity, that's what we mean. Just creating a level playing field for men and for women, because a lot of the time women then have to step back because they have to do the maternity leave and they're worried about the children. But when you have organizations that go ahead to think about things like that, you know, so I think it's a very important conversation to have. As we wrap up this conversation this morning, let's talk about the ways in which you plan to continue supporting women and how women can continue to support themselves. And this, of course, is because I see that community. I personally, from my experience, I've always heard the stories about, women not supporting women, but that's not my reality. My reality is that I've had a community of women who have held my hands and walked me through the different stages of my life. So how important is community when it comes to women, and how, you know, do you plan to continue supporting women and driving positive change in the business world in Africa? Okay.
For us, right, just like you said, it's important to continue to grow that community. It's important that we have that close-knitted space for women to share their ideas, to more or less like share what they are thinking about, or events or things they want to do, right? So in that regards, right, we are looking to gathering more data that would help us to develop more products, that will help us to improve the way women relate, their financial status, financial well-being, and all of that. We also want to be able to, again, develop products that will help, using tools like machine learning tools, using artificial intelligence tools, so that we are able, or we can better serve women in the long run, right? We want to also increase our capacity building workshops. We want to increase partnerships with organizations that will help us to keep that community, keep it the way it is, and also improve or increase the number of women that come in for help. And then in terms of scholarships, in terms of grants, in terms of loans, helping businesses, all of that would actually help us in the long run. So,
collaboration is the way to go. I'm hoping that more people collaborate to help provide opportunities for women and to celebrate women as well. Congratulations on your economy board recently, celebrating women of excellence and women who are standing out. Thank you so much, Anu Oyeleye, for joining us this morning.
Yes.
All right, thank you for joining us this morning. It's conversations about empowering women, and we hope that more and more of these conversations are had and stirred. But beyond conversations, we want to see changes. We want to see these suggestions being implemented. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, there's still more this morning on Breakfast Central.
Africa needs its own storytellers, people who understand the continent because they're from it, people who know that news is more than just a conversation starter, it's our stories, because these stories run deeper than headlines and segments. It's about digging deeper to get the facts and telling the human side of every single story, not just the echoes from foreign headlines and perspectives. It's time to take back our narratives and share them in our voices. The birth of Africa's New Age reporting, and this is where it begins, right here at News Central TV, with stories that put Africa first.
You wake up to a lot of stories about Africa.
But this is where you get the story straight.
Where we explore different angles because we understand our stories.
There's that passion when it's your perspective and not a distant perception.
I know you hear it a lot, but it's true. Nobody can tell your story better than you.
That's what we do.
All day, every day,
on News Central TV.
Our African stories by Africans for Africans.
Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. Now, ahead of the May 29th inauguration of President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his vice, Kashim Shettima, the anti-bomb unit of the Nigerian Police Force has emphasized its preparedness for the day. Now, during a post-election assessment of the unit's performance, the anti-bomb unit command expressed its readiness to maintain and enhance the level of security it implemented during the elections across the country. News Central's Ni Omoni tells us more.
The 2023 general elections in Nigeria has come and gone, but criticism of the Nigeria Police Force alleged involvement in electoral fraud, violence and voter intimidation persists.
They want to make sure they suppress others from voting.
Despite these, the Nigeria Explosive Ordnance Disposal Unit believes it has distinguished itself as an exceptional and efficient force, boasting of no record of bombing or explosion due to its proactive and strategic planning during and after the elections.
Within the period under review, the command recorded some notable achievements which include, but not limited to, 1. Personnel of EOD CBRN Base 35 Abakaliki recovered 3 IEDs from IPOB camp at Niger camp. A smoke hand grenade was recovered by personnel of EOD CBRN at unit Mursala Mohammed International Airport at 7-Star Global Hangar Limited. It is gratifying and heartwarming to state that reports from different departments, state commands and formations disclose that EOD CBRN officers and men performed very well before, during and after the general election.
During the post-election assessment, the anti-bombing unit emphasized the importance of operational readiness for the upcoming inauguration ceremony.
To prevent, detect and neutralize any threats associated with chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear and explosive CBRNE materials before, during and after the election should be sustained and even reinforced as we approach the upcoming inauguration.
Security experts acknowledge that maintaining internal security remains a challenging task for the police force, and all units must be vigilant.
In the face of challenges that came through the election, and they can list different parts.
So if the unit you're talking about is something very different that cannot be seen in a holistic picture of the police conduct in the elections, then that's a different thing. If it's any unit to do with the election, you must look at the police in a wholesome way. The Nigerian police should not escape the reprimand from the public for its connivance in the voter suppression that occurred in the last election.
As the clock ticks ahead of the new administration's inauguration, security operatives have expressed their commitment to improving safety measures during and after the ceremony to prevent, identify, and neutralize threats. Ni Omani, reporting for News Central Lagos.
Brilliant report there by Ni Omoni. The inauguration's on 29th, and it's brilliant that, of course, the anti-bomb squad and all the security agencies are putting whatever is necessary to ensure that there is a smooth transition of power without any security hitches here and there. I'm not sure if anyone expects that there would be, and I think from threat assessment and security assessment in the last couple of weeks, months maybe, they should have a clear picture of whether there's any threats to the inauguration of any sort in the successive governments in Nigeria from 1999 till date. We've never really seen any particular threats that could have emerged in the inauguration of a new government. There's been none whatsoever. There's maybe, of course, some of them that we've not been aware
exactly
of.
What I wanted to say, that the security, we might not have had intel. It might have been classified information.
But when I say there's been none, there's never been any time when Nigerians, maybe a certain group or a bunch of people were so upset with the elections and they threatened. There's never been a time
so
like that.
So I think this just then goes to say that this has really been the most keenly contested election that Nigeria has had.
No, but I think it's standard, operating procedure. It's expected that there would be anti-bomb squad when there would be these security steps taken when there is, going to be an inauguration of a new government. So it's nothing. What we're seeing here is nothing new. They did it in 2019. They did it not in 2019. They did it in 2015. They did it in 2007 or 2011. Now, successive times when there's a new government taken, they would always do it. So there's nothing new. But I think what a lot of Nigerians would be thinking about with regards to this really is with the tribunal. Everyone's still going to go back to the tribunal and remind the government that there is still a tribunal. And people would argue, and I think it was Bishop Onayekon who was arguing that there should not be an inauguration when there's still a tribunal in session, but unfortunately that's almost impossible because of the timing that it takes. And if you look at the way that is happening, there's adjournments almost every time. They go to get a court, spend 2 minutes there before everybody finishes sitting down. Has been adjourned.
Absolutely. One wonders if they would actually be able to conclude this tribunal in time. It's just that there's a lot of attention on this particular tribunal. I don't think that we've had any tribunal that has had as much attention as the one of 2023. And yes, we unfortunately cannot halt. I wouldn't say unfortunately, we cannot halt inaugurations in order to conclude the election tribunal. But like we always say, we hope that at the end of the day, regardless of how things turn out, justice is seen to be done by a majority, because in this case, justice cannot be seen to be done by all Nigerians, but the majority of Nigerians. I'm just going to quickly run through the schedule of activities marking the 2023 presidential inauguration. So as at yesterday, we were to have the World Press Conference by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. On the 23rd of May at 7 p.m., regimental dinner in honor of the Commander-in-Chief, On the 24th, valedictory Federal Executive Council meeting by the council at the council chambers. 25th of May, we have investiture of the president-elect and vice president-elect to the national honors of Grand Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Grand Commander of the Order of Nigeria, respectively, and handover of transition documents. On the 26th, public lecture and Jumat prayer. On the 27th, inauguration lecture on the topic Deepening Democracy for Integration and Development by His Excellency Uhuru M. Kenyatta, former President of Kenya. We also have on the 27th, Children's Day program. And at 10 a.m., there's a parade, and at 2 p.m., there's a children's party. On the 28th, we have the interdenominational church service at 10 a.m. and inauguration dinner and gala nights much later. Then also at 10 a.m. as well, we have the inauguration parade and swearing in. And finally, 1:30 p.m. post-inauguration luncheon. so that you can make yourself available for which of the events you would like to attend.
Especially the luncheon.
Especially the luncheon.
Exactly. Anywhere that there's food to celebrate with, the incoming government. But of course, congratulations to Nigeria. Regardless of how every other person, everyone has their own feelings towards, what's going on the 29th on the federal level and on the state level also. But congratulations to Nigeria for, of course, having another, successive government without a disruption to our democratic process since 1999. I think that's also something to be pointed out. Yes, we're still fine-tuning the process. We're still trying to make it better. I think there are more Nigerians that are better informed now about the electoral process and about the value of the elections, that they will, all be willing to participate. We've never seen it this way before, so that's a plus. It may not get it perfectly at this time, but, it's something.
Well,
but at the same time,
course.
and just to pray that they get it perfectly, at least that, something, there is some level of justice, to, the whole process. So
Right.
we'll see how it turns and continue, of course, to follow the process and share with you.
Okay. We, of course, will be bringing more updates in this regard. We will be following it up as well on Breakfast Central. But let's go on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be winding things down with some entertainment here on Breakfast Central.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa first.
Africa needs its own storytellers, people who understand the continent because they're from it. People who know that news is more than just a conversation starter, it's our stories. Because these stories run deeper than headlines and segments. It's about digging deeper to get the facts and telling the human side of every single story, not just the echoes from foreign headlines and perspectives. It's time to take back our narratives and share them in our voices. The birth of Africa's New Age reporting, and this is where it begins, right here at News Central TV, with stories that put Africa first. Africa is rising. Again, we hear our sounds echo on the other side. Afrobeats and Afropop reinvented, hip life brought back to life, new energy infused into Kwaito and Kwela. Africa is balling. Every stroke, every shot, every raise, we find our place at the top. Taking the helm of real power, new hopes for democracies. A breed of entrepreneurial tigers, audacious storytellers, and a promising generation raring to go. Truly, Africa is rising. And this is where the stories that define our continent live.
Welcome to the entertainment section of Breakfast Central. The 9th edition of the Africa Magic Viewers' Choice Awards began yesterday, Thursday, the 18th of May, 2023, with an opening night and cultural day event. Now, this officially kicked off the series of activities preceding the award night scheduled to hold on Saturday, the 20th of May. This year, the runway competition, the winners stand the chance to walk away with cash prizes and the opportunity to work with Pepsi, one of the brands they are set to create an innovative design for on the runway. The celebration will climax the award night on May 20th, and today is the Content Creators and the Young Filmmakers Day. The 9th MVCA will see the return of the popular Best Online Social Content Creator category and the introduction of 2 new categories, that is the Best Original Telenovela and Best Unscripted Original. We had our man Sam Dandy there yesterday and he pieces together this report.
It's one of the most anticipated weeks in entertainment. The African Magic Viewers' Choice Awards has officially kicked off. Now, I'm super excited. Today is day 1. It's dedicated as opening night and, of course, cultural celebration. I'm looking forward to seeing culture being represented here tonight. People looking stellar, talking to some of the nominees, in fact, stakeholders in our film industry, and I can't wait. It's going to be absolutely fun. All you have to do, of course, is keep it locked to News Central Television. My name is Sam Dandy. Endless culture. Now, different stars all across Nigeria from different parts of the country are looking absolutely fantastic. Of course, now this is day 1. It's opening day and a cultural celebration. And honestly, I've witnessed, and in fact, just a few minutes ago, they had to give an award to the best dressed. But that's not all. I do have someone who was nominated for costume design. So who's nominated for costume design? Chuka, please join me. Now, you were nominated for costume design. And today we have seen a lot of the culture being represented. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about this? You are nominated for costume design, and you've also seen the culture represented here tonight. What are your thoughts about what you've seen here tonight?
Oh, I mean, I think everybody did amazing. They look good, and they're representing the culture. I mean, they're looking the parts. They're all looking the parts, and I love that some of them went extra mile to look good and represent their culture.
I must say, congratulations on your nomination.
I think that is natural to man, to humans. Man will always strive to improve and do better. So for a body like the AMVCA, constantly year in, year out, they tend to, try to improve on what they've done the previous year. So I am not surprised that it's bigger and better. It's pretty much what is expected. So and we're grateful for that.
It's a cultural night, and that's us. We are going to see an amalgam of rainbow colors expressing us in pictures,
Now, I have to ask you, not just are we celebrating Nollywood and our fashion, but also our film. How important is it to represent our culture in our films?
Well, most people mistake culture for just film or whatever. Culture is one of the most difficult words to define in English. You understand? So this is just one aspect of our culture. That is our storytelling culture. And that's what we have come here to celebrate. Okay? I can tell you one thing. What this industry has done to make Nigeria known and better.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, also, what state are you from and what inspired this look?
I'm actually from Edo State, but I wanted to represent another part of Nigerian culture and just celebrate that because we're all one. So I'm coming as a Northern Belle.
You look stunning.
Thank you.
Now, also, it's important, of course, we're seeing culture being represented here.
Yeah.
And also in our films. Why is that important?
Because I think it's about time that we celebrate who we are, like who we are as Nigerians, Africans, Black people. It was trampled on and hidden, and we're almost told to hide who we are, and who we are isn't good enough. So I love that we've come of age where we know that we are beautiful. We know that being Black is beautiful and awesome and powerful, and I'm just so I look so good, like, you know what I mean? We all look so good, and just celebrating who we are is so important.
We're seeing African culture being represented on the carpet, also in our films. Why is it important to put that in storytelling?
Because that's who we are. It's very important to represent African culture because that's who we are first and foremost, and those are stories that we should tell. The foreigners, Americans, British, they tell their stories, so we should tell our stories the way we want to. as Africans.
I must confess, absolutely fantastic. This is the first time the AMVCAs have gone this route or cultural representation, and we've seen culture like never before. All I can say is we represent Africa first. Wherever you are from, you should be absolutely proud of the culture that you represent, and let people know anywhere that you are, in your fashion, in how you talk, in your language, and of course, representing Africa in the best way possible. My name is Sam Dandy. This has been absolutely fun. This is till next.
I am jealous. I wish I was there. So much pomp and pageantry and grand display of our culture. Thank you, Sam, for that report. We, of course, will be catching up with all the details on News Central's page, but let's share with you what's happening later today on News Central. So later today, let's share with you what's happening on News Central this morning. Unfortunately, we won't be able to share that, but we'd ask you to please stay with us. We'll bring you exciting and up-to-date content. Thank you for joining us today. I am Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogi Ogbonwa. We'll be back here again on Monday, so it's time to wish you a very beautiful weekend ahead. We hope that you make the best out of it. And see you on Monday.
Bye.
Egyptian luxury brands are harnessing traditional craftsmanship from jewelry design to carpet weaving to bring the country's ancient cultural riches to the world. Experts in the sector say the global appeal of Arab and Islamic designs from other countries shows Egypt could do